So I want to put the... So welcome to Modern Block. Thank you for joining me today. So I've got Unbiased Rugby here. He's been very gracious in joining my channel today, giving me a little bit of a live broadcast and discussions about the big game this weekend, the big one everybody's waiting for. It's something I dream about, and I'm sure many of you too. So I thought I'd get him on and get his opinions, the wise opinions of Unbiased Rugby into this, maybe a little bit of an unbiased opinion, since some people say my Modern Block channel is a little biased. So let's see what he says. So welcome onto the channel for Unbiased Rugby.
Thank you very much, Modern Block. I really appreciate you having me on your live show. I really do.
Thank you very much. No, I really, really do. So I thought we would go through pretty much some of the talking points of the big game, any kind of like things opinions you want to have on it. And obviously, starting off with the coaches, then going on to the history, the conditions, the big face-offs in the game, and then obviously the possible team that me and you come together with, if that's okay. And then obviously, guys, if you want any questions or anything you want us to answer while the live chat is going, please put them in the questions. Let's get this going. And I just want to say thank you to obviously Unbiased Rugby and many others for pushing me. Please subscribe. I'm almost at 100 subscribers, and I'd really like to get there. So please help me out. And yeah, so let's get into this. So I think the first things first. Let's get into the coaches. What is your opinion on Steve Hansen and Russie's plans? Is there something hidden in their plans? Have they let their whole bag of tricks out, or is there more?
I think they're holding something back. I've been watching the news quite lately, and before a big test match, you've really got to take the news with a bit of a pinch of salt, because obviously both coaches are out, and I think Sticks was saying that the refs should be a lot less. Should be harsher on New Zealand because they seem to get away with a lot more. Then Steve Hansen comes back and says, well, the Boks throw the dice. And so I think there's a lot of talk in the news at the moment. I don't think Steve Hansen's really going to be targeting the outside backs. I have a feeling they're going to come straight up the middle. I don't know if you watch a show called the 10-14.
Oh, I've loved that show. They really have some good insights, yeah.
Yeah, they actually did a show on Spark Sport on the new attack that the All Blacks have, and it's all centre based, so it's all based to come up the centre of the field. Look, I do think they're holding something back. I think Russie does have a plan, and I'm sure Steve Hansen has many plans. So, yeah. But yeah.
And I mean, I think one of the plans that maybe he's let a little bit of it slip with not taking Owen Franks to the World Cup. Is it revealing a little bit of maybe this extra effectively using his props as maybe another loose forward combination, maybe trying to split the Bok defense? What do you feel about that?
I was shocked when Owen Franks wasn't selected.
Yeah, me too.
My thing is, for me, there's two important positions on a field if you want to win a World Cup. Yeah, there's lots of others. You have to have a world-class tight head, and you have to have a world-class fly-half. Your tight head, we've got so used to playing this running style of rugby that we forget, in the Northern Hemisphere, a scrum is there to get penalties. That's what it's there to do.
Exactly,
and if you don't have a decent tight head prop, and they're going with Angus Taava, I'm trying to remember who the other...
you got your Joe Moody. I think your Tuagaf, I can't remember his name, Tuagaf. You see, also, some good options. But I think they go for much lighter prop. Well, not very light, but lighter props, in my opinion.
They have. I was watching First 15 last week, and they were saying that that if you're going to go with a lighter set of props, it means you still got to win your collisions. So you've still got to win your set pieces. Yeah, for sure. And the problem that I see is that, you may win your own ball on Channel 1 and stuff like that, but, all the Springboks have to do is keep it at 8th man and then just do the double shove, get your penalty, go up the field, do your line out. And looking at the South African line out's been a little bit iffy for a little while, but I think there's a hell of a lot more jumpers available for the Springboks. I think it's an area that the Springboks can focus in on, is that set piece.
No, for sure, exactly. I'm thinking the same thing. I think that the Boks are going to play, you're talking about 10-14, going back to a very similar style of rugby for South Africa in the sense of trying to win the penalties to kick the points. I know that some people might find it boring, but the fact of the matter is it does work. And especially if you're playing against a team like the All Blacks who have picked, I feel like, a less focused scrum, more of an open play scrum. If you can force them into those set pieces, I think that would be exactly where Russie's planning it. So maybe the blocks are falling into Russie's. They're falling right where Russie wants them with the way that they've picked their scrummage. Obviously, it's still early days. I mean, it's not like these guys are small, but it definitely is maybe a little bit less specialized in that position.
Well, I was looking at the weather reports today, and it looks like it's going to be, I think, 9 millimeters of rain on that day.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. During
the game. So it's not going to be conducive to open running rugby. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really. I think it does look like it's raining, on the Saturday. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So on the weather report I pulled today, it's going to be raining. It's going to be humid, but it's almost certainly going to be raining. It's about 80% chance of rain when the game's happening. So I'm almost definitely. I think it's going to be raining, which is going to work out for us. I think quite a lot. I know that fine. The Boks don't always play well in the rain, but I think with us trying to rather play a slower game, the All Blacks trying to move it, if we can just keep our hands right, we should be fine.
I think so. And look, I think that I'd do another show with guys from Ireland, and we were talking about that the South African props and hookers, they may not be the best. I'm going to be honest. They may not be like Tide Furlong and, like the real world-class players. But on average, they're the best. So we're the only side that can really have a second that comes off the bench is essentially not even 1% lower than what's on the field. So there is no drop.
If you look at it, I think if you look at it, Beast, Trevor, Stephen Kitsoff, all of them really, you can swap them in out and it doesn't matter. All of them will give you the same response, and that's really what that's something I think we definitely have in our.
I think from the 50th minute, you'll see that our forwards will start getting a bit of dominance because of that, because our benches are a lot bigger in that respect. But then you look at the New Zealand bench, and they're probably going to probably try open up the game as much as they can.
Exactly. No, exactly. I think they're going to try and open it heavily. And I saw even it's not a perfect game to compare, but even the Japan game, I feel South Africa tried to consistently just try to use it as a way to actually slow down the game in some ways, play their style, and almost force continue practicing, forcing a team to play like them, which I think is definitely part of Russie's plan, is to just continue to teach the guys to do that. And I think the weather might be conducive to what we're trying to play.
I think so. I'm so looking forward to this game. It's probably the best attacking side in the world. Am I still there?
Yeah, good.
It's the best attacking side in the world against probably, for me, the best defensive side in the world at the moment. So it's two polar opposites at the heart of their game, and I think it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game, like really a cracker of a game.
No, exactly. I fully agree with you. It's going to be one hell of a cracker of a game. So let's move on to. So obviously discussed a little bit of the weather. Do you feel that it's? I know that both teams have been practicing, but the other thing that I want to talk about is maybe the fact that the All Blacks haven't really been there that long compared to the Springboks. The Springboks have been there for just over almost 3 weeks now, whereas the All Blacks, I think, only just a week and a half. Will that impact it even further?
I think it'll come down to a multitude of reasons. I think if the Springboks went with their families, it might be a little bit. It'll be a lot better for them because, if they're away from their families, I think they were on camp for 6 weeks, and then they go 3 weeks earlier, and then it's another 6 weeks in Japan. That's a long time to be away from your family. So I'm hoping that wives and children and that we're allowed to go, and that they can spend time with their family, because then it'll take that part away from it. I think it was the right thing to do, to go experience those conditions, because they say it's worse than Durban, and then it's bad.
Exactly. So, and I mean, obviously, the humidity side of things, I don't know. I've been looking at the weather, for example, the average weather in New Zealand, and it's very similar to that. So it could be that South Africa felt that because of the fact that we don't really have that kind of conditions in South Africa throughout, except for maybe in Durban and parts of the year, that maybe they felt they needed to just give themselves a leg up, whereas the All Blacks felt that it wasn't really that important, as they have this kind of weather, very similar weather there regularly.
Yeah, I think it's the heat that's probably going to get to them.
Yes. Yes.
I can't see what the temperature is there. It's because it was
Is it
38 when they were approaching
the
one
rain
point.
is bringing it down. It's only about 20 that day. The other days we're hitting
Okay.
about 30 to 30s, but that day it's going to be quite cold, or not cold, but 20s because of the rain.
Okay.
So that's going to be a big factor.
Then I think we're pretty much on level playing field. If it rains a little bit and it's quite cool, then I think it's going to be a lot tighter game than what people anticipate.
I agree with you. I fully agree with you. So next I want to move on to a little bit of historic, obviously looking at the history of these two teams in the World Cup. And obviously we've got our 98th game, this being the 99th game the two teams play against each other. And the hope and the dream of every South African is that they meet them in the final for the 100th. That's mine. So maybe not everybody shares it. So obviously it's quite interesting. We are the highest team, win rate. We have the highest win rate against New Zealand of any team in the world at 36%. Does that at least give us a little bit of a sense of respect from the All Blacks, or do you feel that they go into every game the same? It doesn't matter who the opponent is.
It's difficult. I'm gonna say some controversial things now. I think South African rugby has been on a downward trend since Heineke Meyer. I'm not saying he was a bad coach. I just say from circumstances, things just started going downhill from there. Lost to Italy, lost to Japan. The huge big losses to New Zealand, Ireland. So I think in the last couple of years, from about 2014, maybe, I think the All Blacks did lose respect for the Springboks. We hadn't won a game since 2012. I think it was 2012.
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. 2012, and it was 10 years since we won in New Zealand. Yeah.
So it could be. You could have all the history in the world, and if you haven't won a game in 10 years, then there's a little bit of a problem. But I think from that Newlands test, the last test under Alistair Coetzee against New Zealand, I think we lost by 1 point. That was probably my favourite game that year by a long shot. It was a magnificent game. Then the game that we actually won in New Zealand, we shouldn't have won, and then the game in Pretoria, we should have won. So
I was there, and I was gutted as a supporter. I mean, we had it, and then some poor substitutions, some poor. Just a little bit of taking your foot off the pedal, and that's the one team you never do that against. We decide to go do that.
Exactly.
Frustrated me.
I was watching. Nick Mallet was on telly, and he was saying, "Isn't it amazing that in the last minute of the game, when the All Blacks win the game in the last minute, they go, they just hung in there. They're absolutely amazing. But if the Springboks do it, then we're lucky." So. And it's true because that's how people viewed it. But I think from our victory there, I think there's been 1 point difference in the last 5 games. I think it's 5 games. 1 point difference.
Yeah, with 0 point difference in the last 3 games. Yeah, and then I think it's about 1 or 2 points in the last. And I mean, if you look at the World Cup games, you see I've got on the screen there. The World Cup games, there's only in the all time it's 4 points difference, and World Cup games at 6.4. So it's actually, besides the fact that in 2003 we lost pretty comfortably to them in a quarterfinal, the only other 2 massive games was in the last World Cup where we were kicked out by them, and obviously 1995. Those are the 2 big games. Both of those also being in small margins. So World Cup time, these teams are historically very, very close, and they definitely put everything onto the field. It doesn't matter. History no longer matters in this moment.
I think when you get to the business end of the World Cup, it is so pressurized. It's so much like Test rugby that you have to go for your 3 points, and it does play into the way that we play.
Yes.
We used to saying, okay, you got to kick for goal. You kick for goal. You get your points, tick over the board. That's traditionally how we've played, and this kicking for the corner and stuff. That's what New Zealand does. It's not what we do.
Exactly, and I think that it's quite. I definitely think it's conducive, and we've got the as I talked 10-14 again. We've got the DNA of the team to do that, and it's back to having a player which is a solid number 10, which we can depend on, strong under pressure, and knows what is expected of him when it happens, and that is essential in our game plan.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking about it today because I did a show on Oosterrand, and Oosterrand won the World Cup in '95, and then 12 years later won it in 2007, and Frans Steyn was in 2007. So maybe 12 years later,
No, it's like the 12-year. It seems like if we can do it, it's the 12-year pattern. I mean, I wouldn't, as a South African supporter, I'm not going to moan about that.
No, not at all.
No, exactly. So, I mean, yeah. Next, I've brought up some of the teams. Obviously, the biggest thing a lot of people are talking about is, do the teams have the caps and the weight? As everybody talks about South Africa, obviously having quite a big forward pack to actually win the World Cup. Quite interestingly, the average caps in the All Blacks team being 58.8 caps, and South Africa's 45. We definitely have I think where we probably have, I see our biggest weakness is in our backline caps, especially the wings and the center, the centers, maybe even scrum off, where we have a bit of a poor side of it. But forwards, I think we stand quite tall against the All Blacks. But what do you think this caps situation means? Is it a problem, or does it show youth and X factor that maybe just people don't know yet?
Look, I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't think, when Rusty took over, I didn't think we were going to win this World Cup. And I was looking at his contract, the 6-year contract. You could see that they were angling for 2023. That's what they were angling for. That's the World Cup that they wanted to go after. And I still think that that's the World Cup. That's our World Cup. It's our World Cup to lose is 2023 because we're gearing towards it. We've got a defensive pattern that's very, very cutting edge, very, very high risk, high reward. And when our outside backs hit 25, 30 caps, that defensive system is going to be, it's almost going to be like a brick wall because they're going to understand how to read the game a lot better. So for me, I don't think we should read anything into winning this World Cup. Yes, I want to win this World Cup because I do think we're good enough, but I think it was another show.
It's not the end of the tunnel. This is maybe just like a stepping stone to the World 2023.
Exactly. Okay. Just think where we were 18 months ago.
Yeah,
we had just lost to Ireland 32-3. We had
57-0.
We were going in against Italy and we didn't know if we were going to win. So this is a side that was like really down, and Rusty has turned it around. But it's only been 18 months, and a lot of these other teams have had a 4-year cycle. I saw a lovely interview with, I can't remember who the assistant coach is for the All Blacks. But he was chatting, and he was saying that they actually, in the back of their mind, they're planning for the next World Cup before the World Cup.
Yes.
Before the previous World Cup. So, they've got plans and motions, like they'll bring in like a 20-year-old, like 1 or 2 caps, just to groom them into the World Cup so they're ready for the next World Cup. So it's long-term planning that these guys have. But coming back to your question, I think the way that we play is very forward-dominated. So I think our forwards can stand up against anyone in the world. I honestly do believe that. Our backs, we have some exceptional backs. They're just still quite green. And they are going to be found out, and we just got to realize that they're going to be found out. Mapimpi and Ches and Colby, they're going to be found out, and they're going to be targeted. We've got Villy and Faf who do that really good scramble defense, but they're going to rush up. There's going to be a chip. It's going to happen in one of the games. We just got to accept it. And
exactly. And exactly.
And if we try to look at it that way, then then we're going into this World Cup. We've got nothing to lose. We've got absolutely nothing to lose. From where we were 18 months ago, we were ranked 7th or 8th in the world, to where we are now, where we're a contender. I think I'm super happy for where we are and where we're going. If we win, great. I'll be super stoked. But it's not the end of the world if we don't.
Exactly. No, exactly. I think that we can only expect so much from it, and just the pride brought back into the South African team is really something that every supporter, I think, is. Me as a supporter, I'm so happy to see. I love the fact that everybody on the internet, everybody everywhere is giving the Boks a chance. I mean, we are third, I think, in the bookies' mind on winning this, and I mean, I don't think anybody would have believed that 18 months ago. So that's already a testament to the kind of style that Rusty's brought in and the players he's brought and blooded, because there's a lot of positions that I thought 18 months ago, I feel we don't have any real depth. And now I look at some of the positions and we can pick 4 or 5 players to play a position, which is outstanding. I mean, there are some players at home that I think are really missing out. I think of, for example, Kurban Bosch, and obviously all of them. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, I think our 30-man squad is probably second only to New Zealand in depth.
Yes.
I believe that. I don't think we have the best starting 15. I don't think we have the second best starting 15. But from a bench point of view and depth point of view, we can lose a few players in some positions, not all positions. I think 10 we're a bit. We can't lose Pollard. That would just be catastrophic. Yeah. So but all the other positions, I'd say we've got a really good second choice.
No, exactly. I agree with you fully. I think that there's definitely a huge amount of depth in a lot of the positions, and the All Blacks, I think. The team, I think definitely what excites me is that means that in your last 20 minutes, where the All Blacks have often been our biggest downfall against the All Blacks have been, I think our reserves will be proper power subs, and they will be able to keep the game going, if not penetrate the wall even further, which is what we want from it.
If you think, for me, our best lock by a long shot is Archie Snyman. I'm not going to lie. He is our best lock. But he is amazing when he comes on at the 50th minute because he's tall. The game's completely wide open. The guy knows how to offload. He knows how to go into contact really well where he keeps the ball alive. And by far, he is Brodie Retallick for us. And for him to come off the bench, for a player of that quality to come off the bench, I think we're in a really good position.
Oh, that just excites me. I agree with you. Archie Snyman, exactly. And I mean, I love the way that Russie's utilizing him. He realizes the strength of the player. The fact that in that 50th to 60th minute, the defenses are a little tired. There's a little bit of mistakes being made, and Archie's game plan is built around exploiting it. He definitely just knows how to hold. And I think there also are positioning players around him that can expose that. They've got great feet and can catch the ball where it's needed. So I'm loving the pods and the selection, understanding each player's strengths with the other players. So next things next. So obviously talking about weights and stuff, the teams are very similarly weighted. The overall caps-wise is, I think, the bigger concern. But as we discussed now, that's not, I think, the end of the world. So next I want to move into some of the big face-offs of the tournament.
Yeah.
So first things first, I've selected, you brought up this one of Faf versus Aaron, and I fully agree with you. This is a big one. It's going to decide who's going to tactically be able to control the game, which style of play are we playing, and talk me through which side you feel it is, and obviously maybe how you feel about this.
Literally, I'd say 18 months, or actually before Faf went across to Sale, because I think going up to Sale Sharks and playing in the Northern Hemisphere has revolutionized the way that Faf plays. And I would have said Aaron Smith by far is the best. He is so fast off the base of the ruck. He throws so flat against the line that it's amazing. And if you see how he throws, he actually doesn't. A lot of scrum offs, they go in and then out. He just grabs and goes straight out. And that literally that millionth of a second or whatever, that really helps Beauden Barrett out a hell of a lot if Beauden Barrett plays 10. But I honestly feel the way that Faf plays, but I think more importantly, the way that he defends, the way that Russie uses him in defense, because if you look at, obviously we have, if you can see, we got a banana kind of defense. We got an outside in defense. So our wingers come in straight away. And then Faf is used as a roving role to be our scramble defender. Okay? So because he's so fast, and I think in defence he's amazing. He knows exactly. I think he's got Aaron Smith's number. But for me, if you look in our past, when we had Joos van der Westhuizen and I'll never forget who's the other number 9 that we had that was world class at the Bulls?
Fourie du Preez, for example. I know he's definitely.
That's Fourie du Preez. When South Africa is really, really good, world class, we've had a world class 9.
Exactly.
And Faf de Klerk is that 9. I think Herschel Jantjies he's chomping at his right there behind him.
Isn't that great to see that, having such a great 9 and yet still having a player that can back that up? I mean, so few teams would lead for just having a Faf. Now we can argue between Faf and another player. Every team would kill for a Faf.
Well, and if you take New Zealand, they've got two, Aaron Smith and TJ Perenara, and
Exactly.
they are world class. Both of them are world class, and any team in the world would love to have them. And we are fortunate. We are actually in the position now where we've got two, and I still think, who's our third choice?
Coach Reinach, also a stunning player. He's got also a scramble defense of note and a pace on the ball.
Exactly.
No, exactly.
So,
I'm quite excited about all three of them. I'd be happy with all three of them playing, and that's great to see. So awesome. So next I want to go. Next face-off is I've chosen here is Malcolm Marx against Dane Coles. Obviously, this isn't like 100% because I know that obviously we could have Bongiam and Nambi playing there, and Dane Coles might not start. But if you were to see this is pretty much like what I envision is the face-off of the game. How do you feel about this and this positioning and this battle?
I think the nice thing, because we were talking, I was thinking about this the other day. Dane Coles is you can really get under his skin. You really can get under his skin, and so the nice thing about a Bongi is he knows how to get under another player's skin. Malcolm Marx is more, I'm going to lead by example, and he doesn't really get under people's skin, if for want of a better word. He relies on, this is my ability. He doesn't get into fights. He doesn't. He's a pretty clean kind of player.
Yes. The only concern I have about him, and to be fair, Malcolm Marx also, is I feel both of them, and you touched on it earlier, our line-out throws, our accuracy has cost us in a couple of games and is not 100%. Do you think that this has been ironed out, or which player do you think is the better option in that regard?
Sure. I think our best line-out thrower is Scott Brits, but he's not going to play, obviously. He is. Yeah. He literally is our best line-out thrower, and I'm hoping that he's done some work with Malcolm, but I'm hoping that somebody's done some work with Mostert.
Yes.
At the end of the day, a line-out throw is reliant on two people. It's reliant on the caller, and it's reliant on the hooker. And especially when we played against England last year, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Malcolm Marx is not throwing," but his throws were actually super accurate. It was actually the line-out calls that were completely wrong. And so I think I'm hoping that Mostert and Malcolm have worked exclusively together, because I think they do well. They do work well together, especially from the lines.
Yes.
But I've got a feeling Malcolm's been holding something back. I think they're going to start playing him in the wider channels. I really think he's there to take on the Dane Coles, who also plays in the wider channels. I just have a feeling. I really have a feeling, because he hasn't shown much this year. He really hasn't.
Exactly. No, he's been. I was quite surprised for Squidge Rugby. I saw a channel the other day bring up that he's probably one of the best players in our team, and really, and I was quite shocked about it, because this has probably been one of his worst seasons in a while. Last year I think he was a lot more dominant, and he's been quiet this year. And I wonder if you're right. It is that he's hiding something. He hasn't revealed all of his cards yet, and I hope that's the case.
I think it is. I think they're trying something. I just let's hope. You know what I mean? The World Cup's in 4 or 5 days. We'll know. And
exactly.
But I just think he's been holding something back. I think he's been managed fairly well. So I don't think he's going to be tired or bashed or anything. Coming back to New Zealand, I like Dane Coles, but Cody Taylor for me is a better hooker. Number two. For me, Cody Taylor is the best number two in the world at core skills. There is no one that throws. He throws perfectly. He works well in the scrum. He's really dominant. So as a pure number two, I think he's the best in the world. Okay, he's not the best rugby player like Dane Coles, but New Zealand are super fortunate to have both of them. And I've got a feeling that they might use Dane Coles more as an impact player coming off the bench. I think he'd be a lot better in that last 30 minutes. Just say, yeah, Dane, you got 30 minutes, just go for it.
Yeah, go nuts. And he can. Yeah. So I'm sure. But that's such a nice option to have as Steve Hansen. I'm quite jealous. Awesome. So obviously, size-wise, they're similar, just caps. But I think that's not the end of the world. So it's quite interesting. Moving on next is the center pairing. So I've brought this one up as this is not the exact center competition. It's just more as a symbolic one, in the sense of, probably in my opinion, besides the wings, our centers is something which hasn't really settled. I feel like wings, we've actually had a couple of people at least starting together, consistency, even though maybe not many caps. The centers for me is there's somewhere where Rassie is still trying a lot. And I just want to bring up, like, obviously my current favorite center is Lukhanyo Am. I think he's a legend. He might not have a lot of caps, but wow, he's a beast on defense and really knows how to run the line along hard and fast. So I love that. Obviously, Sonny Bill on New Zealand side, also a great pointer. But many other players like Jesse Kriel, the Islander, and that the Islander for me, I've grown less and less of a fan of him over time. I feel like he definitely often loses the ball in contact. He can sometimes be very, very slow to distribute and can cut off this quality back three and the quality of the outside centers in that when he plays in that position. What do you think?
For me, Lukhanyo Am is like the second coming. I'm going to be honest. He is, for me, he's an absolutely magnificent 13. And if not the best, one of the best 13s in the world, without a doubt. And a lot of people on my channel, they talk and they say, oh, but he doesn't defend. And I try to say to them, I say, but look at the channel that he missed on. He's actually missing on the wings channel. So he was in his channel, the wing came in, and he missed the tackle on the outside channel. So he was actually there. And people don't see that. And you're going, well...
I think he's an amazing defender. I think that's probably his best quality besides he's strong running. I think he defends like a boss. And probably why I think Rassie's been able to get this rather complicated defense working so quickly.
Without Lukhanyo Am, our defense doesn't work. Jesse Krill's a magnificent 13. By absolute, he's a legend. You know what I mean? And but he just doesn't have that same kind of. He's more. He breaks the defensive line. Whereas Lukhanyo Am knows when to go into contact. He knows when to pass. He knows when to hold the ball in two hands. He knows when to tuck it. He understands. He understands. That 13 position.
More of a rugby brain. I agree with you. I'm more of a rugby brain, and that's exactly. I have a very, very similar feeling on that. I think exactly that, and that's why I was thinking. I feel, in my opinion, Jesse Kriel is a good one again, like we're talking about Argia, to bring in about the 50 to 60 minute mark, as when the defense is a little bit more open, when you've got the space to do your fancy moves and to play with players like Argia to give that factor. But I don't think Jesse is always the player to bring in the beginning of the game when it needs to be calmer, it needs to be methodical to break down the opposing team.
No, I agree. Look, Damon de Allende is okay. To be honest, he's never been my favorite player. But like somebody else was saying, Damon de Allende could score 15 tries in the World Cup, and we'd still not like him. So he's just one of those players. He's quite polarizing because we've watched some games when he plays where we've just thought, what the hell are you doing?
Exactly.
Like, you just think, what? But when he played against England last year, the end of that game against England, he was magnificent. He played the way that he should have played. He went to be, with England, you've got to play quite physical and you really got to be abrasive. And he did do that. So I'm just hoping he plays more like that as opposed to when he tries to do some fancy kicks and things like that.
But I feel like that's my one of my bigger gripes besides his ball losing. I feel like he is a great player. I'm not denying that, but I find that he's inconsistent in his quality. He has games where he's amazing, other games where he's not. And unfortunately, a World Cup is won with 7 good games. You cannot have a player and your weakest line is your weakest player. Is the whole team is as weak as your weakest player. So what concerns me is just, can he put together 7 great performances? And that's what scares me.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens because I think Frans Steyn coming off the bench, and I still don't think Frans Steyn should start. I don't think he's a starter anymore. He should be finishing the game. He is getting on there in the years, but
a little bit.
Sorry, my screen just went dark.
No problem.
Okay, I'm back. Let's remember that. And then, but I think he's great off the bench. It's just a pity that we lost some of our really good inside centres.
Yes.
So
like Jan Sadfontein.
Oh, jeepers! If that guy just stayed in South Africa, good grief. You know, when we lost 57...
It hurts my heart every time I talk about it. I've touched a sore subject. I'm sorry.
I just can't understand how we can't have access to a player of that ability. Because I think, imagine having Faf, Pollard, Jan Serfontein, Arm, and Cheslin Colby.
Oh, my word. Can you imagine? Like every team in the world would run for that backline. I mean, that is a mean backline. And it makes me so sad to think. So that's something I definitely feel the center areas. New Zealand, obviously, on the opposing side, have a wealth of players here. I mean, they are literally brimming with centers.
Anton Leonard-Brown, for me, is their best player. Because he can play wing, he can play back, he can probably play a prop if he wanted to. Ryan, I don't think... Sonny Bill may start, but I think Ryan Crotty is their man at 12. I think he's the person that they're probably going to play. But he's just injury prone, and I don't think they're probably going to play him against us. They'll probably play Sonny Bill against us.
But obviously, I mean, also there are Sonny Bill injury concerns also, I've heard in the news. Obviously, they've denied them, but the fact that normally stories like that don't come out of nowhere. So they might be questioning, like, losing a little bit of depth there before the tournament even starts. And I agree with you, they're going to try and play a little bit more robust centers in our game and then have play like the guys warm up rather against smaller games coming up after that. I think that's definitely going to happen.
I think so. I think they're going to save Ryan Crotty for the knockouts because I think he brings something for the knockouts, for those last 3 games to get to the final.
Exactly.
But I'm sure they're going to play, I'm sure they're going to start with Sunnyville.
No, for sure. Okay, so my last face-off I've want to brought up here is this. So obviously this isn't perfect, but effectively what I'm trying to say is, obviously I'm not sure who's going to be starting at number 10 for New Zealand, so I've put both up. But this also brings up the other question of not only Andre Pollard, but whoever, which I assume, in my opinion, it's most likely going to be either Bowden at 10, and then I don't think Richie will play 10, but then you'll have his brother, or you got some other options out Ben Smith at 15. But then so Villiers, but then also Pollard faces either Richie Mwanga or Bowden Barrett. Talk to me how you feel about that. Like, does Pollard have the strength to take him?
For me, I think Pollard's probably the best tactical 10 currently playing. Tactically, when Pollard is on song, I don't think there's anyone tactically better than him. With kicking in the right place, heads up rugby, looking for space, things like that. Coming back to this Bowden Barrett, Richie Mwanga, it's a tough one. I have a feeling that Bowden Barrett's going to start at 10. I just think you can't have the best fly-off in the world not starting at 10. And I think when the game starts opening up a little bit, from in the second half, I think Richie Mwanga is going to come on at 10 and Bowden's going to go to 15. And then they're going to use their double pivot. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. But I think that's what they're going to do. If they start Richie and put Bowden at the back, I think that's a risk. For me, that's a risk. Because imagine Richie gets injured, and then they don't have that double playmaker anymore. It's a tough one. But I think Bowden Barrett to start, Richie Mwanga on the bench, and from about the 60th minute or maybe 50th minute, Richie Mwanga will come on at 10 and Bowden Barrett to 15. I think that's how they're going to play it.
I definitely see what you're saying. I mean, I was looking at Ultimate Sharpshooter and Love Rugby saying here that Pollard being the best fly-off and Bowden being the best player. And I've heard a lot of people usher those same comments and bring those same things up, that Bowden is a great player at every position. So I wonder if Hansen feels that it doesn't matter as long as he's on the field. But I feel, especially if you look at the game where they did try that against us in Wellington this year, I don't think it worked out as much as I thought that Hansen had hoped. I think that Pollard was able to quell Richie a little bit and really just calm Richie down. And Bowden didn't have the space he thought he would with its defense mechanism South Africa has put in place. So I do think, I agree with you, that it will rather go for a structured Bowden attack while they've got it. And then later, when the maybe desperate kicking points are needed or whatever, then they'll bring a Richie on to try and bring that different playing style onto the field.
Richie Mwanga is world class. He really is, but I don't think he's ready to come up in a World Rugby to a Rugby World Cup to start. It would destroy him. You're coming up against Ireland or Wales. It would really hurt his confidence going forward, and I don't think that they're going to do that. Look, I may be completely wrong. Steve Hansen's he's a genius. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
the guy's a genius.
Who are we to say?
He's the most successful coach in the world.
Exactly.
In any sport.
I read an article. I was listening to a video where he had a nice comment, and it's something that imagine if you're an All Black to go into, and it's like we have something that no other team in the tournament can do, and that is to go take the tournament for the third time. And I mean that's quite a feather in your cap. I'm not going to lie. I
agree. But I think Pollard can go toe to toe with either one of those.
Yes.
I do think Beauden Barrett's the best player of all three of them, but I think as a number 10, as controlling the game and things like that, I still think Pollard's head and shoulders ahead of both of them.
Agreed. I think Pollard also seems to almost come into his own against the All Blacks. He's definitely shown some of his best games against them, which is always nice to see a fly off not only be a great player, but under the biggest pressure, I think he almost improves as a player. Pollard has always been his best against the best teams. I look at even when he plays for the Bulls, he almost seems to drop his intensity down against smaller opponents that hurts the team, whereas when he's playing the most intense games, the serious games, the big ones, he almost elevates his game, and that is something that could definitely come in handy for South Africa in this tournament.
I agree with you there. I've always thought it must be really hard to be an All Black because every single team you come up against raises their game to play you. So,
maybe that's why they're the best in the world. Everybody else is giving them the hardest time, and they have got to be the best or they're going to suffer.
Also, I agree with ultimate sharpshooter there. You can't start a 12 cap fly off at a World Cup. It's just too risky.
I'll put that comment up there. For sure. I think that is definitely something that I think Hansen tried it. I don't think he got the results he was completely looking for. He definitely, I think, will probably start him in the games coming up after this, just to give him some blood time and some playing time. But might not. I don't think this game next, in the quarterfinals, it'll probably go back to the Beauden side. Do you think Beauden has resolved his affliction with not kicking for poles when needed? I know he's tried a little bit this season. Do you think he's learned his lesson?
Yeah, I think he's too much of a good player not to have actually now have that own his arsenal. He does have it now, and when it comes to the crunch, I'm sure they'll go for the drop goal. They've realised that look, I have a feeling this game on the weekend is going to be won by 1 point. I think that's how close it's going to be. And that's a penalty. That's a conversion. That's anything. So I think he's sorted himself out. The guy's just too good not to have done it.
No, exactly. I think that's exactly right. It's Beauden. I think we cannot put it this way. I don't think I want to underestimate either of these players or any player in the All Black side. Every player there is completely world class. So it's just what makes this game so much more mouth-watering and exciting to see, and I can't wait for.
I just think you can just imagine Richie Mo'unga would probably be the starting fly-off for any other team in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean that's something like we talk about our depth, and that's something that exactly as you said earlier, like we only can really stand back to New Zealand in our depth, but New Zealand really does have insane players at every position. And I actually did a video on this a while ago on like foreign players and teams. I don't know if you saw it, and I don't know how to link it, but I'll try and see if I can link it. But effectively, what is fascinating is this shows you the depth of the playing pool coming from that country. I mean, I think half the countries in the World Cup have New Zealand-born players in them. South Africa also has 9 of the 20, but it shows you that depth of players. I mean, there are 40 players from New Zealand outside of the New Zealand team playing in this World Cup. It just shows you the depth in playing pool they've got.
It's going to get higher because obviously with South Africa halving their union contracts, New Zealand are going to follow suit fairly soon. They're also going to reduce their contracts to try to keep some of their players. And it's just there's going to be a flood of Southern Hemisphere players playing.
Exactly, you're going to look at the Irish or Scottish team, or Scotland, 14 of their players are foreign. You're going to look at that Scottish team and wonder like what part of New Zealand is Scotland, what province of New Zealand is Scotland. If you look at that, I mean, it's insane. I mean, even Japan. I'm sure some people when they look at this World Cup wonder if Japan is just part of New Zealand. So it's quite fascinating. At least as a little fun fact of trivia, so in the Japan. South Africa game that just happened, only South Africans scored tries. So at least that counts for something. Awesome. So we've already gotten our gig. So obviously, just before I get into it, the last little bit of question I want to ask is, before we get into like picking our team for the game, is I want to ask, do you think the fact that South Africa is the only team besides obviously Japan who have played in Japan now in the last few months, do you think that's a help, or do you think it doesn't really make a difference?
Sure, it depends if we win or not, eh? Look, I think it was the right call. I do think going earlier made a lot of sense, and I think it was part of the nice thing about Rossi is I think he's pretty open cards, and probably everyone at the beginning of last year knew that they were going to go to Japan early. I think it's going to hold us in good stead. But, a lot of these teams like Wales, England, they've been playing in Portugal. They've also been playing in high humidity conditions. So, I think it really depends. Look, it could be like Warren Gatland and put baby oil on everyone, to try practice. I just had to laugh at that one. But I think
you can't
it will hold us in good stead. I think the biggest advantage that South Africa and New Zealand have in this World Cup is that we play each other first, and we literally have 3 softer games after that where we can play we can't play a second string side against Italy, but we have to play something a little bit better. But we actually have 3 weeks where we just it's more relaxed kind of games, and then we get back into the quarterfinals. Where a lot of the other sides like England play. I think Argentina, France, and then they go into the quarters.
Yeah, England have got a mean path. They effectively have 5 effectively top 5 teams they have to play against to get to win the World Cup. It's going to be a tough one, and I think that's going to definitely challenge Eddie Jones' whole plan and strategy. So it'll be quite amazing if they can do it and pull it off.
Yeah, I think if England win this World Cup, they would have deserved it 150,000%.
Awesome. So what I wanted to now do is just maybe get into picking our team, what we feel is going to be the team for this game. Who do you feel is each position, their actual and that. So let's start with number 1. Obviously, who do you think is the player that we put there? Do we start with because it seems like South Africa's got the 2 pods of props that they've pretty much played the last few games of. Which pod do you feel is the pod for this tournament?
I think Trevor's carrying an injury at the moment, a niggle. So they're probably going to come back.
He actually is in South Africa at the moment, I hear you, because for birth of his child.
Yeah, I think he's carrying a little niggle, not a big one, so it's nothing heavy. But I think they're going to start Vincent Koch. Not start, but he's obviously going to be part of the setup. If I looked at that, then I'm in 2 minds when it comes to Steven Kitshoff and the Beast, or Trevor. Not Trevor, the Beast. Personally, I prefer starting with the Beast. I just think he's got the experience to be able to go for that 50 minutes. And yes, he may get a penalty against him, but the guy changes his technique almost instantly. And I think as an impact player, Steven Kitshoff is a beast, an absolute beast. That last 30 minutes when you've got a second string or a second string prop. So say it would be Angus Ta'ava would probably be the prop that would come on second as their tight head. And Steven Kitshoff is magnificent as an impact player. But in the same token, you could start with them as well. Personally, I'd start with the Beast.
You start with the Beast. Okay, no, I agree with you. I think the Beast is. I'd say about a year ago, 2 years ago, I was questioning the Beast if he could take another World Cup, but he has done outstandingly in being able to actually bring forward a quality team there and going forward. So I'm quite impressed with how much he's actually grown and improved his play. I'm definitely impressed. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still. Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. So next I want to go into. I don't know if has the player changed there on the thing.
No.
Damn it! See, technology, not my friend. Okay, I'll share them now if we put the 3 up there because it doesn't change live. I thought it would. So next I want to go into obviously. So who's the number 3 you're going to go there? Who do you feel is the number 3 for the team game?
They're probably going to start Frans Malherbe, even though I think he's been in the worst form that he has for a while. If you'd asked me last year who our best tight head was, it would have been France. But I think Trevor's gone way past where France's ability at the moment, and I think Trevor brings a lot more in open play, and you see his defensive stats. The guy is absolutely amazing. Wow. Doesn't miss a tackle. Trevor, for me, is our starting tight head prop. But with them being injured, they're probably going to start France and bring... so bad with names so late in the evening. Vincent Koch off the bench.
Vincent Koch off the bench. No, I agree with you fully. Okay, so then I think that's a good one. And then now, so the hooker, who do you feel the hooker is for the game? We spoke about it earlier. Do you feel it is Marks, or do you think they're rather going for Bongi just because of his calmness in the game, especially in the starting?
I think for me, I think Bongi's been he's been playing really well, but I think at the same token, I actually think they're probably going to start Marks against New Zealand. I just have a feeling, especially with a tight head like Frans Malherbe, I'm sure they're going to start Marks. I think the tight head's more important to the hooker than the loose head. So I think they'll probably start Malcolm Marks first.
No, I fully agree with you. I'm also thinking similar vein, and I mean, there's nothing there's no crime in whatever bringing somebody as good as Bongi in later. So I think that definitely, I don't think we are too badly off either way. I definitely think that's going to be a little bit. Kitshoff, I definitely think you're right. Kitshoff and Koch are going to be definitely useful at that 50-minute mark. As we've said with multiple players, that South Africa is almost a team of two halves. They've got two different styles they try and play, and you can see that in a lot of the last games that they alter it. They first do a lot of kicking, a lot of tactical, kind of slow down the other team, try and force them to play their style, and in the second half, open it up a little bit and definitely do a lot more interesting moves in that second half.
You'd be surprised. Look, I played prop at school, so it's a position that I really enjoy props, and we actually forget how good Vincent Koch is. If you watch some Premiership rugby, the guy is phenomenal. He's a really good tight head, and for him to be on the bench, that's a big thing. To be our third choice tight head, we can't go wrong with Vincent. So yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. If you watch a lot of Premiership rugby, which is probably one of the best rugby out there, that you'll see how good Vincent Koch is.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure. He is definitely, but that's something that I definitely think, I know a lot of people moan about the Northern Hemisphere taking a lot of our players, but I do think South Africa has a little bit of credit to give the quality that they've brought back. I mean, I think it's almost evolved South Africa rugby and brought it into a new era that I think we just have to embrace.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's move on to next. We're going to go into the locks. So the locks, I'll change them as we've picked them. So who do you feel are the locks for the game? A position, in my opinion, South Africa has the most depth. It's almost like the Mariana Trench of positions for us. I mean, if you can just throw off players and they are world class. So this is for me a tough one for us here to choose. I know he's pretty much stuck with his same few, but what is your opinion?
I honestly feel Eben and Mostert will start. I think Eben as the enforcer and Mostert as the line-out caller. The one thing that Mostert has is he's very similar to Peter Steph Toy. They've got really big engines, and every team in the world has a player that has a big engine. Ryan's from Ireland. Some really big engines. Curry from England, the big engines. And South Africa is very, very fortunate. We've got two. But yeah, I think Eben and Mostert with Achia coming off the bench.
No, exactly. I think that definitely is the right thing. I do think sometimes I find Mostert's game a little bit. I'm not a massive fan, but I agree with you. I think he definitely he stabilizes the scrum very well. He really he's a good tactical player in the lineouts, and as you said, a strong engine that we do need. I do think I don't always love his playing style as the open play, but he is good in those tactical positions. Something South Africa depends a lot on.
He's always got double figures in defence, and he's got very, very low percentages of missed tackles. So I think he fills a different kind of role as an Eben. It's just so great to have a player like that and say, yeah, there's 50 minutes, just go mad, and then bring on Achia to bring on that impact.
No, exactly. I mean, I think we're definitely quite, I'd say, lucky to have those kind of players and those choices. And I mean, obviously, the crazy thing about it is, and few teams would have this kind of benefit. We're talking about Archie and we're talking about them, but we're forgetting some like other great options here. I know Peter Steff is mainly playing flank, but still, then you've got obviously your Loot de Jager, the second highest tackler of the tournament last tournament. Which we cannot discount is going to be a great. I know he hasn't had a stunning season with injury, but I still think we cannot discount the benefits and the quality of play he will bring to the team.
I think if Loot was fit and he was playing it the way that we know, it would have probably been even Loot starting. But it's not. It's I think Franco's there for a specific reason. He works well with Marks, and he brings something like a really high work rate. So I think that's why he's there.
No, he does. He's definitely a dependable player, one we always need. So it's good to see. I just think that's really great. I think as South Africans we have to be really, really like almost thankful and just excited that those are the kind of players that we can choose between. And as you said, this with every position. And this is something that a testament again to, as we said, Rusty's ability to build a really strong team and a deep team in as many positions as possible, especially in the time he's had. I mean, that's the massive thing here.
Tyron, before we carry on, it's just sometimes my machine may do strange things and get overheats and at about an hour and something, just in case I get kicked off. So
okay,
you know what happens.
Okay. All comes for your machine. Technology, it's always our friend, isn't it? And I'd say that as an engineer, but okay. Okay, so the next I want to get into is the actual back three of the back row. Let's discuss how they the kind of who are they? What are they going to bring to the game, and why are we choosing? Why are we choosing them? What is the reasoning? I know one of the positions is pretty much filled with Khaleesi, I assume.
Look, Khaleesi's our 6, Peter Steff is our 7, and Dwayne Vermeulen's our 8. So I think that's a combination that works. Yes, we don't have a traditional fetcher, but that's fine. Yeah. We don't have what's traditional open sides. But then we've got Flo that comes off the bench, and he plays that open side position near the end of the game, and he's always got us penalties at the end. So Flo's obviously going to be on the bench. What I like about Khaleesi, he may not be a traditional open side, but he's so good at the counter ruck, so playing towards the ball, he's just as good. Counter rucking is quite an art, and you can see that. Like I think Curry does it for England. You've just got to hit it at the right time, and I think Sia's that. And it's amazing if you speak to a lot of people overseas, they will say that Sia Khaleesi is our best forward.
And I mean, there's definitely a credit to why they say that. I mean, but I think that as you were saying earlier about that we don't have the traditional fetchers, I feel like that's something interesting that Rusty's done. I mean, he's players like Kitsoff and Marks and they almost fill into those roles of being the stealers, being the fetchers, when with the fact that we've got a much more, like I'd say, a great workhorse and engine room, as Sharpshooter puts it, back row rather.
Yeah. Look,
a tackler of note, the guy that can tackle 1,000 men, Peter Steff du Toit.
Peter Steff du Toit will, if he carries on the way that he's playing, he will be World Player of the Year sometime. The guy's magnificent. The one thing I like about Dwayne Vermeulen is he's really good under the high ball. He always takes the kickoffs. And yes, everyone says, he takes it into contact. He says, but that's his job. You know what I mean? His job is to catch the ball, take it into contact, distribute it. So for me, Dwayne Vermeulen's pretty key to that because he's pretty much really good over the ball. He's really good getting front foot ball. He's really good catching the ball. So
he's really good at rugby. Wow.
Yes, but it's just like there's a lot to his game that you don't realize that he actually brings to the table. But I think that is probably a seriously well balanced back three. I can't think of another player that would bring anything better. So maybe if Jaco Kriel was still on form, but he was injured for a long time, he was that fetcher kind of role. But he's never going to replace Sia Khaleesi.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I feel for him in that regard. But I think that also is quite great about Dwayne Vermeulen talking it further on even Sia Khaleesi and that, as I think that the back row as a whole, they definitely almost bring definitely a very, very vibrant culture to that forward pack. They almost they band the whole team together, which is so essential in a team that have to. Every impact is together. The lineouts are together. The scrums are together. You got to make sure you're a unit in every battle that happens on that field. And I think that they definitely bring that for this team.
Look, and we've got Peter, Steph, and Dwayne that are line-out options.
Exactly.
That gives us 4 line-out options. Very few teams have 4 line-out options.
Not even Bongi or Marks can miss one of those. There's 4 of them.
There's enough of them.
You'll hit one of them, I'm sure. No, awesome. And let's face it, Dwayne is a legend at getting a ball off a line-out and scoring a try. I still have dreams about the game in Super Rugby where he did that. I can't even remember who it was against now, but I still dream about the time when he, from the back line, caught the ball and ran like 70 meters to score a try. It was beautiful.
I remember that game.
No, it's insane. I think as obviously Love Rugby puts here, Warren Whiteley is a sad loss, but it is unfortunately a tough position and area to get into in the team. It's
difficult because if Warren if he wasn't injured, he would have been on the plane. Let's be honest. But at the same time, Warren and Vermeulen play completely different styles of rugby.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So a better replacement would have been Kutsia for Dwayne Vermeulen, even though he's injured. But I think Warren's an absolutely magnificent player. But it's just so unfortunate for him that he's so injury prone.
No, for sure, exactly. He's definitely. It is sad, and I mean, I think it's unfortunate, but it's good to see at least that we have got backups when needed. So it's unfortunate, but that's unfortunately the way the game goes. Cool. So let's move on to the 9 and 10. I have kept you for an hour, but I appreciate the time so far. So we'll quickly get to the last few players and before we finish off here. So 9 and 10, I think is pretty solid. I don't even think we need to discuss it heavy. I just want to talk a little bit about their pairing is together, like how important them together is, or do you feel that Herschel and Reinach can pop into that Pollard position? Do you feel we're still fine if Yankees puts in some minutes? How does that play out?
Oh, well, look, I think we're very fortunate that we actually had Yankees play almost the whole game against New Zealand. I think he played 50 minutes against New Zealand, and that's for your second game out, that's pretty impressive. And you scored a try, so I think
he scores a try at the end of every 5 minutes of every game. It's like this. That's his time.
So I think it would probably be Faf and Herschel on the bench. Andre would be 10. They're probably going to have Frans Steyn as his cover, or not cover, but they're not going to have a traditional 10 like an Elton Yankees.
Okay.
Even though, Elton Yankees gets a lot of stick. I'll be honest, he does get a lot of stick, but he is the best attacking fly-off that we have in the country. He really attacks really well. And behind a scrum that's going forward, I think we missed that a little bit. But it's probably Andre is going to be the only 10 that's on the proper 10 that's on the field, and France will be on the bench.
No, exactly. I mean, that's such a contrast to the New Zealand style, and obviously it shows the players they have to be able to do that. But the New Zealand style of effectively playing with 2 world-class fly-offs on the pitch, most likely for a large of the game, how different that is in that strategy and how that's going to work out. Which team is going to be able to, which strategy is going to work for them?
Yeah, because if it was Elton Yankees, then Pollard would move out to 12, and then. But I think we replace our centers as our scrum off and our centers.
Yes,
it looks like that's how we like to play.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, let's face it, as a South African, something I definitely think I will literally freak out over, and it will be one of the most amazing moments of my life, is if we get to about the 75th minute and there's a Frans Steyn kick from about 55 to 60 meters for this game. I can just imagine.
We haven't seen it for a while.
Oh my gosh, that Lions tour just makes everything about me. It makes me tingle. Oh, great! So I think that's a pretty set position, and I agree with you there. I think Frans Steyn was going to be the replacement there. He's a solid replacement there. He does give us an extra option considering you're facing such a strong center pairing and center grouping there.
I like what the ultimate sharpshooter says there. On a dry day, take Elton over France, and I probably agree. On a dry day, I would take Elton any day over on a dry day. I
agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't know how the weather's playing out. It might change, but at the moment, it looks like we're not going to get that. And I'm a little bit sad about that, but I don't know. I'm not sure who it would have benefited, so we must see it. It's how the cookie crumbles. Cool. So I think let's move into the centers. Who do you feel are the centers for the team? I know we've got, like, this is a team position that's moved a little bit, but it has definitely, I think it's stabilized for me in probably being the Islander and What do you feel? Do you feel that he's going to change this up, or do you think that it's going to stay similar to that?
He's not going to change that at all. I think De Allende, he's been there, he's done it, he understands, he's been at World Cups. I think he's the right player to have in the situation. Is an absolute given for me. So I think those are going to be our starting centre pairing, and we will eventually have France and like I said, it's late at night. Jesse on the bench.
It is late at night. You're right. No. Well, that's, and I mean that I can't argue with that. And I agree. I do like the centre pairing, but probably the biggest factor that both these players bring forward is the fact that they are big gentlemen. I mean, it is almost like Rusty's trying to just make sure that, especially for the first 50 to 60 minutes, he's just trying to like build a wall of big gentlemen to run at you, tire your team out for the players who are going to be a little bit more mobile later on and more moving. I just am concerned about the Islanders' tendency to almost cut off Lukanya when he plays. He doesn't really always distribute very well to him, and he can lose a ball in contact rather regularly.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I'm hoping that, it was quite interesting. Somebody was talking about De Allende when he came onto the scene. The guy was the offload king. He was offloading. So it's literally the way that he plays now has been trained into him, as opposed to.
That's true.
If he had carried on playing that the way that he played, it's just, we wanted an Esterhazen type player at 12. So, Ruan Janssen from Rensburg. We want these like huge big bashers.
Bashers.
I think it's been drilled into him that that's the way that he needs to play. But if he's been given the freedom to play that he feels naturally that he should be playing, I think he would be a great distributor. But I agree. At the beginning of the show, Damon De Allende gets so much stick. Like literally, he could score 15 tries and we'd still not like him. So that's
put it this way: he can try. If he scores 15 tries, let's see how I feel. I mean, like I'm not going to argue with him trying and then seeing how I feel. I mean, I'm giving him the opportunity here. I'm not stopping him.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, if he scores 15 tries against the All Blacks, I promise to like him for a little bit at least. Awesome. Okay, so I agree with you there. I think that is definitely fair. I just would love to see the Armster himself get a lot of great ball. I think if he gets the ball in the right places, he is not only a great runner himself, a strong defender, but I feel he has definitely been able to almost let Colby and like Mpimpi and Nkosi shine. Just like I feel Villiers did last year, I feel like he doesn't really do. He's that position now. He's really giving them space to shine, where Villy, I feel, is not massively doing that this year for them.
I agree. I think Lukanya Arm makes our wingers better, and that's what you want.
Exactly. He gives them the space to be the wingers they need to be.
Exactly. I think South Africa probably has one of the best finishers in world rugby, and that's Makazole Mpimpi. He is an absolute. He's a finisher. He's at the right place at the right time. And if he gets good ball from Lukanya Arm, the guy's going to score.
Exactly. No, exactly. And that's what you want from a player like that. So I think if the Islander can play as like Love Rugby said, 2015 style or whatever, or just at least make sure that the ball's distributed properly, I think the Islander to Arm, I think definitely will be able to give the position the space that is needed, even against a team with a really good defense like the All Blacks. I mean, I know they always play with defense, but let's face it, to be a team in the world where like you score 30 points against them, and that's the most points you've conceded in your country for like 12 years, shows you how strong your defense actually is.
Yeah, big time.
Awesome. Okay, so I think let's get to the last back three here. So the back three are interesting. I mean, I think that it's pretty set. I think it is set, but there's a lot of arguments online and a lot of questions about is it. I feel like Colby and Villy have got their tickets to the game, but is it Nkosi or is it Mpimpi going? I know that Mpimpi has been the consistent more playing, but Nkosi had one hell of a showing against Argentina, and pretty much that game, he pretty much stamped his passport there. And I'm excited to see what he can bring forward, because just like you're saying, Mapimpi is a strong finisher. I feel Nkosi he can create some great opportunities, and his stepping ability and his size gives him a lot of opportunities, maybe where a lot of other wings wouldn't score tries. With a little bit of space, he can make some magic happen.
Well, I think Mapimpi is sitting on 8 tries in 7 games. I think that's impressive. And if you look at it, Super Rugby, a lot of people say, "Oh, he just caught the ball and went over the line," but it's a real skill to be at the right place at the right time. But
I mean, it's your job. That's his job. He's got to be at the right place to catch the ball. So it's important.
The problem is that Nkosi was an 11 and he's been converted to a 14, and he's not going to take over from. Jeez. It's been a really long day. I'm so sorry, guys, if I'm mumbling a little bit. But I think Cheslin is magnificent. I've watched him play in the top 14 for years, and the guy he's an absolute genius. The problem is that
he's coming back. I mean, shows you the genius of the plans forward.
I just don't think taking Nkosi from 14 back to his 11 position against the All Blacks is a really smart move. Maybe against Italy and Namibia, maybe to try blood him back into that position, because there are different positions. People say, well, a wing's a wing, but it's not. It's like saying a prop's a prop. It just doesn't work like that. So I think I have a feeling it's going to be Mapimpi and Colby that are going to be starting, even though. If Nkosi started, I'd be just as happy. I think we are so blessed with outside backs, as long as they don't take steroids.
No, exactly. I think that's completely fair. I agree with you. And I mean, I think what's quite fascinating is, like, even some of the other options that obviously aren't starting options now, but bench options are really good. I mean, we've got Geland also, who's a good option. I'm not saying he's maybe world class, really hasn't had a great season, but still a really exciting option to bring on. He's definitely a strong runner and has a lot of X factor he can bring to the game. But just to have a player like Nkosi in that position is really going to be interesting. And as you've got your ultimate shop shooter saying, Colby obviously also has some great experience and quality at fullback, even if needed.
Yeah, he plays fullback for Toulouse, so
exactly.
So I think it can be, but I think Willie Leroux is pretty key to our back three stability. I must admit, Willie Leroux can drive me absolutely crazy sometimes. Sometimes he can have such an off day. You think, what the hell, But
he reminds me again of Darlander in that sense. I mean, unfortunately, he also, you got to sometimes worry, can he have 7 games, world-class games in a row? Because last season for the English tour, he was the best thing on since sliced bread. But in the Rugby Championship, everybody started to waver. And even this year, he's been consistent. I think he's been more consistent, but his X factor has dropped a lot. And I think that's what you got to question now: is he losing his X factor for his consistency?
Look, I think there were a lot of issues happening at Wasps. He was leaving Wasps. I think there's a lot of issues happening in the back room at Wasps. And I heard from somebody else that they were saying that the Wasp playing environment is super toxic. So it's very, very toxic at Wasps. And you can just imagine who's the number 10 that went across from New Zealand? Not Lamapi. That is Lamapi. Not Lamapi.
Check. I remember you saying.
And his game has dropped drastically. And there was a world class 10. His game dropped. So I think there were a lot of things happening at Wasps. And Willie Leroux is the kind of player, Sipawanga.
Thank you. Yes, Sipawanga. Okay, yeah, exactly.
So I think he's played himself back into form, and I think he is key. At the end of the day, you look at the 15s around the world, Carney, Ben Smith. You have to have a world class 15, and he's the closest we have to world class, because after him is Ches and Colby just doesn't have enough experience, and Gelant really doesn't have enough experience.
No, for sure, exactly. No, I agree with you. I definitely think he is the best option, but I just worry that he can really have some shocker of games, and I'm just hoping that the best of his games come forward. Now, obviously, our question is, with that, because of the question marks, who is playing the fullback against him? Who is the fullback facing him? as we said, Bowden most likely playing for half. Are they going to go with the Geordie then, or who are they going with at fullback?
Look, I still think, even though Ben Smith, his last game against Tonga was really good, when he's had a few bad games. But at the end of the day, Ben Smith,
Tonga, it was like playing against tackling bags.
Yeah, but Ben Smith is still Ben Smith. If he wants, even on his bad day, he's still one of the best 15s in the world. And Ben Smith is out and out one of my favorite players in the world, and he's pretty key to the All Blacks. I think Ben Smith will start at 15 and probably move to wing when Bowden goes back. I just think that's how they're going to do it. It just depends what wings they're going to start. Are they going to start? Yes. I think they're going to start Siva Reese. I think they have to. I don't think. What's his name? The tall guy. I don't think he's on form at the moment. Rico Ioane.
Yeah, Rico Ioane.
Yeah, I don't think he's on form.
Rico Ioane isn't on form. I think he is probably one of the best wings in the world, and if he is on form, is like a knife. But I think at the moment he hasn't really been able to find space. I feel he hasn't running onto the ball as well as he did, and being able to give the X factor he needs to be able to find the holes. So I agree with you. The question is, I assume they're not going to use this game for him to find it. I think they're going to use the up and coming games after it to give him that chance to find it for the knockouts.
I think it plays into our hand because our back three our two wingers are quite inexperienced, and playing a Siva Reese and a George Bridge, they're also just as inexperienced. So it might balance it out just a little bit.
Give us a chance.
It really depends. But if they play the 10-15 and then have Ben Smith on one of the wings, I don't know. I think the All Blacks have got so much choice. I think they're a magnificent side. You can move the best 15 in the world to play on wing, and they still perform.
No, exactly. No, I think that's it definitely shows me, but it is also really exciting. I'm really happy as a supporter of South Africa, and I think like the comments in that might agree that it just is quite exciting that it's not a game we're going into saying how much are we losing by. This is a game where even the bookies are giving us only a fraction of a lower chance to win this over them. I think it's 1.7 odds to 1 versus 2.1 to 1 to get for us, which is really showing that even the bookies feel this is not a done and dusted game, which is a massive jump from the situation we were in 18 months or 2 years ago. And that's
I just hope that there's no serious injuries to key players like say Bowden Barrett or Pollard. I think because it's going to be a super physical game, I'm just hoping that there's not too many injuries that get carried along.
Exactly. Because
it could hurt both our chances. But I haven't been excited for a game like this in so long. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to sleep on Friday.
No. I'm already having trouble sleeping now. This is the thing that's crazy. So it's starting to really affect my health, I'm sure. So I'm quite excited for it. I definitely am, and that's just amazing to see. And the other side of it, that's a little bit more of a downer, is obviously the other part of something that South Africa has seemed to come to know in recent World Cups is how much is the referee going to affect this game? How much is the referee going to impact it? We've got a French ref, Garcia, coming, and I'm not saying that, and obviously also another French on the sidelines. I'm not anything against French refs. I'm just saying, unfortunately, both of these teams have had bad track records against them. Are we concerned, or do you think that World Rugby has sorted out a little bit of this issue?
Look, I take your bet. There's going to be, maybe not in this game, but there is going to be a controversial ref call this tournament. There is going to be one. By a long shot, there's going to be one.
There's just too many games for there not to be one.
Yeah, I just think it's such a high-pressure game that I think the refs are going to be under such scrutiny as well. It's also their first game. It's a really big game for them to also be reffing. That I don't think it's going to be like that. I'm just hoping that every game probably has a yellow card and penalties, especially New Zealand and South Africa. I'm just hoping there's no red cards in the first half, and then that's it. That would just that would really look. I believe in red cards because if you've hurt someone or you've tackled someone too high and they've landed on their head, yes, that's it. The rules are the rules. But I'm just hoping it doesn't happen.
No, exactly. I hope also that this game, as Sharpshooter Pusher, I hope that also after this game on Monday morning or Saturday most likely, on Sunday we don't discuss the ref as why this game changed the way or the result of this game, or a yellow or red card. I think I want the best team to win, so I'm definitely hoping that the refs stay out of the pocket. I hope that they keep the cards right where they belong. They stay there. Obviously, if anything really foul happens, it happens, and that's the way the world works. But it's a case of like, that's only then, and we really need to just hold thumbs that like it has to be properly reviewed, and unfortunately a card will sour the result no matter what.
It would do completely. I just have a feeling that after this game, I think no one's going to want to face us in the quarters, either one of us. I think both teams are going to show a hell of a lot, and you're going to realize that you just don't want to face either one of them. That's just the feeling I have. But I'll be honest.
The way that Ireland or Scotland play to see who they avoid. Who they figure out.
I honestly feel that Ireland, Wales, and England have just as much chance of winning this World Cup. They have great players. They've prepared really well. They're coached extremely well. So yeah, for the first time in a long time, I think there's potentially 5 teams that could win it. Oh, you got 100 subs.
Hey, okay. Thank you. I'll check now. I've been so focused. Woo! Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much. I hope to be growing more throughout this World Cup. But yeah, I think we'll end it there. I've kept you for an hour and 20 minutes. So I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. I would love to join you on your channel coming in the coming weeks during the World Cup to analyze or whatever. And also, obviously, love to have you back if you would join my channel again. I know, unfortunately, it's not as big an audience, but I'd love to hear your opinions. And you really, I think, given my audience some things to think about.
That's not perfect. Thank you very much for having me. It's absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been really good. It's been actually a really nice chat. And yeah, the invitation's there. I'll send out the invitation, maybe not next week, but the following week, and then we can. I'll definitely have you on the show. Definitely. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope to have many more comments. I hope to join you. Thank you, and I'm just excited for this game. I think this is really what South African rugby is all about. So yeah, everybody who's watching still, please enjoy the game. As South African supporter, a video I'd really recommend you to go watch is a video by Unbiased Rugby that came out yesterday. Just talking about supporting your team. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. The fact of the matter is we're Springboks. Just like any other team you support your team and follow them. Through thick and thin. Unfortunately, not every day is going to be golden, but that's support. Otherwise, it's just called following. It's not the same thing. So yeah, please go check out that video and check out Unbiased Rugby. Give him a like. I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.